Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com. All right, new survey from the Employee Benefit Research Institute found this. I thought it was interesting. 78% of the people they talked to said, I think I'm going to have enough money for retirement and retire comfortably. That's good. 70% of those people said the reason they feel that way is because they've built in guaranteed lifetime income.
That's a big percentage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe that's the new MVP because, Charisse, you and I have talked about it in the past in the conference room when you sit down and say, hey, look, this is your paycheck in retirement. And they go, well, that's what I was making while I was working, or that's even more than what I was working, or I can do it on that. And that's a good moment, isn't it?
It is. When you retire, a lot of people, they want to start collecting their Social Security checks as long as you're 62 and older. And very few people have that beautiful thing called a pension. Those are dinosaurs, as my son would call it. And but the people who do have those pensions, they're clicking their heels. They're enjoying retirement because usually your Social Security and your pension is going to pay all your fixed bills, the light bill, the gas at the pump, the grocery bill, all that stuff, right? And then whatever's saved in those 401ks is just gravy. That's extra money. But there are a lot of people out there that have learned that, okay, we don't get a pension. We have this 401k, this big chunk of money, and now we got to figure out how to make sure we don't outlive it. And a lot of those people, you said 70% out of 78% loving this guaranteed lifetime income strategy. It's very appealing. So that's called building protective income. So those people who retired and did not get a pension, you can take a chunk of your money from your 401k, take $100,000, $200,000, as much as you want, roll it into this protective income building strategy, and turn on a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. It is a pension. It's your private pension without the employer having to do it. And it's basically the same thing that your employer was doing, but now you could do it with firms like ours. And so I would say maybe 40% of the people that come into our office, Randy, do this, and the other 60% do not. And but I will tell you that 40%, they can relate to this survey because for some reason they're like, they get their paychecks, they're happy about it. They don't even care what that account grows as they're taking these paychecks, because if one spouse passes, it passes to the next spouse that's still alive in the house. And it can still make money. So if you have a pension at an employer firm, well, when you die, the money dies with you basically after 10 years. When you come to the private world and work with companies like ours, your private pension, if you die, of course, you can go to the surviving spouse. But then let's say the second spouse passes, that money is still making money and it can be inherited by your kids or other family members. So there's a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more options, just depending how long you live. Now, if you live to 90 to 100, there's going to be nothing left for beneficiaries, right? That's a long time because it's giving you really more income than you're supposed to take from an account. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you put $100,000 into this protective income strategy, and in 10 years, it will guarantee to grow $250,000. 10 years from now, say you're 60, now you're 70. Let's say you have longevity, mom, dad lived into their 90s. Basically, it's paying you back your money, but it's giving you a higher income than you could have pulled from a $250,000 account, right? Because they say don't take more than 4%. And basically giving you 7%, maybe 6%, just depending on your age. So there's a lot of value to it, but a lot of people might not need as much income. And so that would be a reason why they wouldn't go down that strategy, that building protective income strategy. But there's a lot of other protective strategies out there. But I will say it is a neat strategy. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? So if you got $1 million, you might put 200,000 into that strategy to button up, making sure that if you pass away, those bills can still be paid for that surviving spouse in the house, and that they don't become financially destitute in case the other dollars have been abused or been used, right? So you always have that income coming in.
Well, you and I have talked a lot about people spending money and not spending money in retirement. And I read a story just recently that if you have a pension, people who have pensions, or it also said a pension-like income, those people are spending 40% more money than regular retirees in retirement.
It's so true.
They know that bucket is going to get filled up every month. Yeah. If it's $3,000,
they want to spend it.
Yeah, and if they don't, it just goes up, and they go, I got to spend some of this money.
That's exactly what happens. So some of our clients that come in for their annual review, they're like, hey, I got this extra $25,000 in there. I'm like, are you not spending that money, that check that's being dished out to you every month? They're like, well, I'm not spending all of it. I said, the point of it is to spend it. They're like, yeah, I'm still getting used to spending my money. So then the next year they'll come, they're like, hey, we need more money. So they're listening, right? It's a fun thing to evolve into and watch our clients go from having a hard time spending to like, oh, I have no problem spending anymore. Can I spend a little bit more? Let's relook at this income plan, Charisse.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I love the stories that you come in with along those lines. I always remember the one where the woman said she was going to go on cruises, and she came in for her second meeting, and you looked at her and you said, have you gone on the cruise yet? And she said, no. And you shook your finger and you said, I don't want to see you again until I see tickets in your hand and you are cruising. And
yes,
this is
fun.
This is
I still do that.
I know. And everybody worries that, oh, she's going to tell me I have to go back to work. Oh, there's not going to be enough money. But what happens a lot is that the money that's coming in is not only enough, but it's more than enough. And people see their accounts go up, and then they realize, I've done all this work, and now I'm going to benefit from it. So get out there and spend your money. Let's sit down and build a plan so that you can feel confident in retirement that you're not going to run out, and you can go out and enjoy the things you've always wanted to do.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Charisse Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.